So warm welcome to everyone. Our topic today is the pursuit for peace. And actually, the subject of peace is something that I think we've talked about many, many times and has come up in all sorts of different ways. And I was thinking just how slippery it is, actually, because it almost comes like the fruit of many, many other practices. So it seems like one of those qualities that is by the way that we talk about all the time, and that is something that everyone, you know, it's accessible to everyone and easy. But actually, I realize more and more how the state of peace, so not just a moment of peace here and there, but the state of peace, where I am at peace with myself, is something that is very, very deep, and actually something that we all, I think, deeply yearn for, because in today's world, there's more and more moments where we feel the need for it, I think, and whether it's moments of stress or moments of disagreements, upsets, disturbances, and going into more and more intensity of violence, news that we hear all the time, or whether it's very slow but continuous eroding of systems. And whatever it is, it all kind of eats away at our state of peace, and stability. And so I thought it would be useful, to look again at this quality and realize just how much we are actually chasing after peace. So it feels like this pursuit, where it's like that shadow that we're running after this. And actually, the reality, amazing reality, is that it's like that necklace, the queen's necklace that was around her neck all the time, and she was searching every day, up everywhere, up and down the kingdom, having everyone search for it. And then when she looked in the mirror, of course, it was around her neck. And so this chase or this pursuit for peace is something I think that often we are engaged in it, and can get very tiring, because we might enjoy some moments of being in a peaceful environment, in nature, or in some peaceful state, even in terms of, but that's temporary, and we like that because it's who we are. But what happens is that we actually, are not able to come back to that when we need to. So so just a second. Okay, sorry about the background noise if you're hearing that. So basically, what I thought was, I just wanted to see what could be my understanding of what peace is. Really, if I was to describe it to myself, what is peace for me? And so I see that as a state of consciousness. So where I am connected with my beingness. So just one second, I'm just going to, sorry about that. Okay. So the way that I think about peace, or the way what it means to me is basically a state of consciousness, where I am connected with my beingness, I'm aware of who I am, and I'm aware that my true nature is to be at peace. And so it's like an awareness of myself beyond my immediate context. No? And so it might be that my immediate context is disturbed, is very upset, is in chaos, or in absolute complete chaos. But peace is that state of consciousness where I'm connected with my beingness, where I'm aware of who I am and I'm aware of my true nature. And it's that sense of stability and solidity inside that comes with knowing that who I am on a bigger scale, that all is well on a larger scale, and that nothing is permanent. The only thing that's permanent is the eternity of the being, the essence of the self. And so, thinking about peace in that way makes it, for me, it feels much more accessible because I'm not looking for it outside, but rather it's a state of consciousness that I can bring myself into at will. And this is what we're learning how to do, really. We're learning how to how to put ourselves, how to position ourselves where we want to inside. Because outside, it's becoming more and more chaotic, whether visibly or invisibly. In terms of the vibration, the fact that it's maybe more difficult to concentrate is due to many, many different factors, whether it's the devices or whether it's the the information that we're bombarded with, whether it's the levels of stress and tension, or whether it's the general sense of lack of well-being that is there around us, a general sense of dissatisfaction, that things aren't how they should be, and maybe they will get better, maybe next year it'll be better, maybe I just want a normal year. Someone wished someone a birthday, a wish was, hope you have a wonderful year. And they said, you know what, just a normal year will be fine. And so the sense of right now things are not good, that there's a lot wrong with what's happening. And whilst there may be truth in that, the reality is that, okay, there's a lot of things that are very far away from their peaceful and natural state. Where am I? Am I also very distant from my peaceful natural state? And if the answer is yes, then what can I do about that? Maybe I can do something and maybe I can't do something about the general condition of the world as we live in today. And usually the answer is, well, there's not much you can do, follow the rules, just go along with it. What else? Maybe there's some things that, and I'm sure there are many things in little and big ways that we can do, but the most immediate thing and the biggest impact that we can have is on our state of consciousness. And so this is such an important thing because, in fact, we do keep coming back to this aspect, is that to work from the inside out. So at any moment in time, I can check what is my state of consciousness. And so connected with peace, I feel directly connected with peace are two qualities. And one is contentment and the other is stability. So when I'm at peace with myself, when I'm in that state of peace, in the consciousness of peace, then there will be that sense of contentment. So the sense of, that I am content with my life, with myself, with how I use my time, with the direction that I'm going in. So again, what that means is that I know that I'm a work in progress, but I'm content with my choices. And if I realize that, okay, maybe I made a mistake in this area, this aspect, then I know, I trust that I can adjust my direction, I can adjust my consciousness and my choices. And so, therefore, I am able to face things that come up. And so, together with contentment, peace also brings a sense of stability. So, stability in the sense that even though things may come to try to shake me, so all different varieties of tests. But when I am in that state of peace, then I know that this is stronger than any of the tests that can come, that it can withstand, that there is that resilience, the ability to come through all of that. And so I think it's a very interesting thing to explore, even though it feels like, yeah, well, we've talked about peace 100 times. What more is there to talk about? But actually, maybe there's not much more to talk about, but there is a lot to experience and a lot to explore within. And I think one way to explore it, and I find that always, is to look at it in its opposite. So to look at what happens when I am peaceless. So when I am missing my peace. And so I see that there are different intensities, levels of intensity of peacelessness. Just as there might be different levels of the depth of peace, and of how much I'm actually able to remain in that state of consciousness. And so one level of intensity is the extreme, the high intensity of peacelessness, where it's like an ongoing noise in my head. And so we're talking about obviously the internal peacelessness, which then translates into maybe restlessness, on a visible form. And usually if someone is restless and peaceless, you can immediately feel it, and or if you are like that, then other people will immediately feel that. And so it's like this ongoing noise in my head of complaints, of criticism, of overthinking, of blaming or worrying, which ends up in a big heaviness. And very often only sleep or some sort of relaxation activities give relief to that. So that's a very high level of peacelessness. And basically, you could almost give the same definition for stress. And so it's almost like peacelessness and stress, in this case, are synonymous. Maybe it's one form of stress. So when there's this ongoing noise in my head about what's happening around me, about myself, about my job, about the people I'm with, my relationships, the world, the situation, anything, it doesn't matter. But whatever is going on, it is noisy. And you know what happens if you are subject to constant noise? You go crazy. And so very often that is the sensation. I'm going crazy and I just need to stop. I need some peace. Even if it's not peace, I just need a moment of quiet. And so in those kind of states of consciousness, we try to grasp onto just a second, anything that will offer a moment of peace. And that's where, unfortunately, habits develop, because they may give, habits that are destructive habits, because they may give a moment of relief.
What did CIO tell you about the pace of the final changes?
Okay, so I'm not sure, Alicia, that you want to, I will put you on mute. In case you do want to say something, please do. Okay, so that's the very intense state of peacelessness, and probably we've all been there at some point or another in our lives, or maybe you're there right now. I hope not, but these things do accumulate, and we do find ourselves there occasionally. And so it's worthwhile recognizing it, learning how to see that in fact this is something that it's not the end of the world. It's not you know it's not something that we have to be in a sense worry about, because it's not permanent. And so welcome to those who've just joined. And okay, and so then, shall we say the less intense state of peacelessness is when maybe occasionally something will trigger a big movement inside, like an emotional movement. And this movement is enough to disturb my day or my mood. It's enough to trigger off the disturbance inside, or to drive me into a certain state of consciousness which is distant from peace. But maybe it lasts just for a short while, a few days or a few hours, but it's enough to destabilize my being. So it's enough to distance me, to separate me from my peace, from my state of consciousness of peace. And that's when maybe we need to reset ourselves and take the time and energy to come back to our peace. And then, of course, shall we say the low intensity of peacelessness is when I can recognize the triggers from a distance, and when I can pick up the signals in advance. And this might be in the form of something that my conscience is telling me. So that voice that's saying, just be careful, because you're running on low, or you're coming to a certain level, or you need to be aware that there is this obstacle in front of you, or that this person is in a certain state of consciousness, and therefore the vibrations that they are generating could influence you. So it's like the antenna picks up the signals. And that is when we can take precautions. So we can, just like if you know that in the next few days it's going to be there's going to be storms and all sorts of changes in the temperature. So you take precautions. Maybe you take out your your biggest umbrella, or your raincoat, or your warm clothes, and so it's like what are the precautions that I can take inside when I can already see that maybe I'm beginning to lose my hold on peace, my state of peace. Or if I am peaceful, but I'm going to come into an atmosphere that is chaotic. And if I know that I am easily influenced, then I need to take precautions. So it's not the peacelessness that is generated from within me, but it's from the situation that is then triggering me to be peaceless. And so if I recognize that, then what are some of the precautions that we can take? That could be reminding myself about something that I can take with me as a tool, or as an anchor into that situation. Or I can spend some time in solitude to reinforce my levels of peace and silence, and I can reflect deeply on what I need in this moment, or I can connect with nature, um, or sometimes talking to someone who is, someone who we trust, someone who is, you feel has experience, is further along, on the spiritual journey, whatever it is, or just a friend. But sometimes it's worthwhile, in a sense, or even writing, writing to see what's going on within you. But whatever it is, it's like taking the precautions, connecting even more deeply with the self. Because we don't want to let the intensity of peacelessness grow to such an extent that we have to then work hard to come back to our state of peace. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning, I feel that peace is a state of consciousness where I'm connected with who I am. And I'm aware that my true nature is to be peaceful. That I don't need to look for it outside. I don't need to depend on anything or anyone to be peaceful. I don't need to wait for anyone or anything to be at peace with myself. I don't need to I don't need to wait for someone to forgive me, or I don't need to wait for something to happen to be peaceful. But I can choose to come into that state of consciousness whenever I want. So we need to practice this, because even though I may, I may know all of that, but actually the ability to actually do that and have the power and the strength to follow what I say to myself, so to follow my own instructions. Sometimes we want to do something, but we end up doing something else. We know absolutely clearly what I need, but we end up going in the opposite direction. And so that is simply a mismatch of power. So the spiritual power that I need in order to do what I need to do, that is missing. So I may know exactly what I need in order to come into a peaceful state of consciousness, but I'm just not able to do that. And so that's where I need to build up my spiritual power. And so, of course, it's like a circle. Spiritual power is built up through practice, but maybe we can use different kinds of practices for that. So I just want to pause here and see if anyone would like to share anything, or share any comments, any thoughts that you have on this subject. And then we can take it from there. So also, if you want to write anything, you can write. And so, yes, welcome Anne, and also Alicia. Nice to see you back. And so, anyone who would like to share anything on your experience of peace as a state of consciousness. And also having maybe been through the various intensities of peacelessness, and in bringing yourself back to peace, back to that state of consciousness. Because I find that it's when I live regularly in that state of consciousness where I am peaceful, that is when my levels of contentment can grow. So yes, please, anyone. No. And otherwise, I will read something from Dadi Janki, who always has something to say, even though she has left us physically. But she has left such a beautiful legacy of classes and books and many, many wise thoughts. So I will read a little bit of this, and then we can go into the meditation. Okay, and then at any time, if anyone feels like sharing anything, it's most welcome. Also in writing. Thank you. So yes, so the art of living from inside to out is such that it not only enables us to let go of that which is outside of us, but it builds such strength as to avoid being trapped by it in the first place. And people feel sorrow when they are holding on to situations. They forget that these situations are external to them. All it takes is to let go. Once they achieve this, they become happy and peaceful again and begin to smile. How often have we looked back on some previous trouble and wondered what all the fuss was about? When you too let go of things that are outside of you and become free, you will begin to feel a state of stability filled with such happiness that no matter what happens, you cannot lose it. Happiness has the powers of peace and love merged within it. Where there is peace and love, you will feel yourself to be a king. You have self-respect and you feel yourself to be very strong, not someone who easily becomes upset and tearful like a baby. No. So this is coming to that state of consciousness, that if we are fragile, and if we feel ourselves to be weak, then that's not a bad thing. That's just telling us, okay, I want to get strong. What do I need to get strong? No. Because naturally, if you were to choose, would you prefer to be in a state that is weak or in a state that is strong? No, what would you choose? I know what I would choose. And so Rhoda says, I wear a rock crystal necklace when I travel to remind myself not to get agitated. It keeps me stable. Very nice. In fact, whatever it is that you use, that's whatever methods you use to connect with yourself, to be in the awareness of who you are, so that you can be in that state of consciousness that is peaceful. It's okay to use that method. And we can all know, I think, when some method is working or when some method is not really working. And so that's where the honesty is necessary. So you need to attend to the quality of the thoughts that you allow to come into your mind. This is only sensible. It is, after all, your mind. Thoughts should be pure, elevated, and determined. So pure means that there's no mixture, no hidden agenda. So for example, if I am taking care of someone, or if I'm welcoming someone, or if I'm even just saying hello, then what is my intention? Is it just very simply to acknowledge someone, or hidden within that, what makes it, in inverted commas, impure or mixed, is if I'm saying hello to them with the thought they should say hello to me. So that just in a very little way becomes mixed. And so that then is not pure anymore. It's not clean anymore. So thoughts should be pure, elevated and determined. So elevated again on the level of qualities of virtues. So an elevated thought is where I see beyond your weaknesses. I see beyond what's happening around me, and I'm able to uplift my consciousness through the thoughts that are elevated. And then determined, which is also being stable. Then just see the results without rituals, postures, chanting, etc. You will experience peace of mind. And so all of that is okay, whether you do rituals or postures or chanting, there's nothing wrong with that. But what Dadi is saying is that you can achieve peace of mind even without that, without anything that is external. So ask your heart, do I have pure and positive feelings for everyone, including myself? Am I paying attention to this, making it my priority as I move through life? No. So this is very important, because to have pure and positive feelings for others and for the self is what will, first of all, avoid a whole lot of sicknesses, even on a physical level. It will enable healing, and it will enable our happiness and our contentment. So the question is, ask your heart, do I have pure and positive feelings for everyone, including myself? Am I paying attention to this, making it my priority as I move through life? And for me, I must say, I think it's just been in the last few years, really recently, that I've realized just how important contentment is. And that my contentment, my state of contentment, does not have to depend on anyone or anything. And it is completely dependent on how I see myself, how I feel about myself, and how I choose to see my life and the world around me. It is absolutely dependent on that. And so if I'm always thinking that something is not right, either with what's happening, with the person in front of me, with myself, with the situation, with the way things are, with the government, something's not right. If I'm constantly in that state and I keep it vague and general, or even if I go into all the details, then I keep myself in that state of discontentment and dissatisfaction. And I'm waiting for things to become okay, to feel content, to allow myself to feel content. And this is also the education and the training that we've received as children, that you can only be happy when you should only be content when you've achieved everything, when everything's okay. And so, in other words, you'll never be content if we wait for that. And so this is why making this a priority, really, for me, it just completely lifted off a whole lot of weight, that the weight of waiting. And so am I paying attention to this, making it my priority as I move through life? Such feelings create an energy that automatically flows outwards, protecting you against any negative influence. And so this is the amazing thing, is that it does a double work. First of all, the pure and positive feelings that I am actively generating, so I don't wait for them to come, but I need to actively generate these pure and positive feelings. So when I'm doing that, First of all, my own mind, my heart is filled with a well being, with a sense of contentment, a sense of strength and stability and peace, of course, which is merged in all of that. But not only that, it also acts as like an immunity against negative influences. And so I think last week the subject of vibrating high was the subject of vibrating high. And this is actually the same thing, is that when I'm vibrating at the level of contentment, then it really acts as an immunity against, well, not just viruses and on a physical level, but very much from being influenced by a negative energy, which could be chaos, it could be confusion, it could be sorrow and suffering, whatever it is that's going on around us. So such feelings create an energy that automatically flows outwards, protecting you against negative influence. So I think we'll stop there. This is from the book Inside Out by Dadi Janki. And the chapter that I was reading was The Power of Peace. So very beautiful words and inspirations. Okay, so I think what we will do now is we will have a meditation. So if you can find that comfortable position where your body is comfortable, you can maybe sit down or just find a place where you can be quiet. And you can be by yourself if possible. And take this time, these 5, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, to come inside. It's like coming home. Come inside. Let the body rest, relax. Don't need to move it, don't need to do anything. Any other tasks and responsibilities, all of that will come to. They will wait for us. And so this time is really the time for the self. To come inside, to come back to my peace. Come back to the awareness of who I am. And so little by little, as I come inside, everything else fades into the background. I can rest my eyes at one point ahead of me, or if you prefer to close them, that's okay. The important thing is to be the one guiding the thoughts, directing the consciousness. And I come to the awareness. I become conscious of myself as a being of light, as a living being of consciousness, invisible to these physical eyes, and yet fully alive. This consciousness is the one that I call I, the self, the soul. It is I, the consciousness, that uses my mind. I say my mind. And it is a subtle organ available to me to express who I am. And so I choose right now to become quiet and to observe my thoughts, to take a look in the mirror of the mind and to see what is going on, to check the presence of peace within, to check the intensity of peacelessness. Maybe it is non-existent, and that means that peace is fully present as a state of consciousness. As I observe, maybe there is some noise of my thoughts and feelings. I don't resist it, but I just observe the people, the tasks, the issues. Whatever it is, I observe and I recognize that I, the observer, am the being of light, the being of peace. No matter what is going on in my mind or in the world outside, the truth of who I am remains constant. I am a living, conscient, peaceful being. And as I stabilize myself in this awareness, I can feel myself becoming stronger and more stable. I come into my power. As I get to know myself at the deepest level. I enjoy this moment. As I recognize my true nature. The more I can stabilize myself in this awareness, I am a being of peace. The more it will become a state of consciousness, a way of living. I enjoy the quiet, the rest, the recharging of my energies. And as I look at my mind, I realize that my mind too has become quiet. And I take a deep breath and very gently I begin to guide my attention once again to my physical surroundings, knowing that soon I will begin to interact and participate in different activities. I also know that I can bring this state of consciousness, this peaceful energy into my interactions as a vibration, as an energy. I can welcome it into every moment of my life. Thank you. So, if there's anything that anyone would like to share from the meditation or from this subject, this topic, then please do. I see Corinne has shared. Refreshing and peaceful, send you all a green vision of the park in front of me. Lovely. So thank you very much to everyone, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon and rest of the week.
Thank you, Radha.